Hello, everybody. Back to my channel. This is Nilay Patel from SilverSilk and More, and I've got a wonderful tutorial for you today. We are kicking off our New Year's Eve winter workshop with this fantastic project that we're going to be constructing together. And this is a live video, so we've got some comments that are going to feed in through, so you guys can participate by writing something or asking questions, which I will answer at the end of this tutorial. This tutorial will take about maybe 30 minutes to sort of put everything together from scratch. I do want to be pretty thorough and cover all of the different tools and materials that are used for this design. And let me go ahead and explain to you what this design is by showing you a quick picture of it. I was inspired by the ocean, the sea, and everything that comes with it around, what Mother Nature has created, right? So for these next series of projects that we're going to do together, I came up with this seashore sort of a theme. So there's going to be designs that you'll see that are inspired by the sea and a set of designs that are inspired by the shore. So this one is our first project of the sea kit and collection. So if you did grab a kit, you'll have many of these materials. There's a few things that weren't included, like the beading wire and crimps, which a lot of people that are avid beaders at this point probably have that stuff already. And if you don't, I'll cover it in my materials, as you'll see here shortly. But I love this design. It's one of my favorite ones to make and reinterpret for different things that inspire me. I really love nature. I love how organic it is, and especially the sea and all of the different cool, wondrous things that are in it. And this is a great way to sort of combine all of those things together. And especially if you've got a lot of leftover beads, then this is going to be perfect to put together. So I'm going to flip my camera around, and we're just going to start it right off. So let me cover my tools first. I always forget to do that in these videos. And so I want to make sure that I get around to doing that first. All right. So I've got a pair of cutters. This is my general beading cutters. I use this for everything. It's a great brand, Lindstrom, very sharp tools. I've used these from everything from memory wire, which I shouldn't be cutting these, using these to cut memory wire, beading wire, craft wire, thread, everything, and they've still remained sharp, luckily. Okay, I've got a pair of crimpers. This is a pair of magical crimpers because we are going to do a bit of crimping today. If you've never used these before, they're really, really easy. They've only got a single divot, as you can see, and the idea here is that the crimp is essentially compressed by just using the divot and pressing it over and over again within that little space until that crimp becomes round. And it's got a very tight, secure hold. Softflex crimps are the way to go if you're going to be using this. Again, I'll cover that in my materials, only because they've got a thick wall and are perfect for creating that little round spacer looking crimp at the end. It has a great result. I've got a pair of crimpers that are also chain nose pliers. So these sort of double as both for me. They're very tapered at the end. I love them. And then I've got, just an essential, like a regular pair of crimp pliers if I need to have them on hand. And this one is a Xuron brand. And by the way, you can grab these from softflexwirecompany.com in case you're looking for those type of crimpers. The other tool that you'll need is a pair of wide nose pliers that have been dipped in a product called Tool Magic. Tool Magic is a coating that rubberizes the tips. So you essentially dip the tips in, let it dry for 24 hours, and you get this really soft coating. This is great for your Terminators that we'll be using for this project. It's going to give a good grip to those Terminators, and also it won't scratch it. So it has a lot of uses, and it protects your findings and your tools. So I highly recommend grabbing that as well. Again, you can get that from softflexcompany.com. They're a great company, and I love using their products, and just such an easy way to acquire them as well. All right. So for your materials, we're just going to start. Let's see if I could pan you guys in a little closer. Here we go. I have got on my left side here a button clasp, or I'm sorry, it's a snap clasp. So this is kind of a newer clasp for me, but I've heard great reviews about it. So I thought, why not? And it was included in your kit, but if you don't have one, you can grab this pretty much from any bead store. But really, you just snap it together and it holds very securely. I went ahead and attached two 6mm jump rings to it as well. And we're going to just use that as our clasp. And it's so easy to put on and take off. And again, just gives you a very secure hold. I've got two crimps, as I mentioned. These are from softflexcompany.com, and they've got a really thick wall. There's no seam to them. They just crimp very effortlessly and very securely. So you'll need two of those. I've got some Keshi pearls. These are kind of a top drill, which I find interesting because to me, this is going to get a really great texture to your design. And I just have a handful of those. You don't need very many for this project. So based on what you got for your kit for this these sea-themed designs, you may want to budget your pearls out as such, just so that you don't use them all up in the one design. But you can use any pearls. Again, this is a very open-ended project. So really, whatever you want to mix into this soup of sea-themed stuff is absolutely up to you. Here I've just got some little spacers. These are shell. I've got some pearls. I've got some check glass beads. Excuse me, no, this is just glass rondelle beads. They're faceted, really pretty. Kind of a unique blue-green color. And then, yeah, I've just got a variety of little pieces here that just kind of mixed well together in blues and greens. And then I've got these really unusual little, I guess those are just quartz beads that have been dyed, treated, and have a hole through it. So again, just to add a little bit of texture, you can find any shape beads that you want to, or stones or crystals, whatever you want to do. And then for the construction of the main piece, you'll need some beading wire, also from softflexcompany.com. I'm going to be using a lot of their products, so you're going to hear a lot of their name. I got this beading wire in medium, and it's in a turquoise color, just to go with that sea theme, right? And so you'll need about maybe 1.5 feet of it, give or take. Most wrist sizes are around the 7 to 7.5 inch mark, maybe a little bit even smaller than that. I'm actually a 6-inch wrist kind of guy. So just think about that and budget for having about 1.5 to 2 inches at the ends of your finished designs to crimp with. So I always like to cut a little extra just in case, I screw something up. That way I have a fail-safe, right? And then I've got a pair of Terminators. These are 9mm Terminators. Much like my other end caps, they have teeth inside of them that grasp onto the chain. If I kind of flip this over, you can kind of see the little teeth that are in there. And the only difference is that these don't have a hole at the top. So you can't really string anything to it. It just caps off your chain nice and clean. And I've got a pair of those in silver. And then last but not least is the SilverSilk. This is the Seafoam Capture Chain. Love this stuff. It's so lush and beautiful and flexible, and has just a really great sheen and luxury feel to it. So instead of stringing beads off of something and using this as a chain, we're going to integrate it into our design. So that's kind of what makes this project really special and really different, is that I'm taking a completely different take on it altogether. All right, let's begin our construction. So what I'm going to do at the end here is I'm going to go ahead and attach everything, including my findings. Well, one half of my findings, really, toward the end here. And you can choose to do this in the beginning or at the end of your project. I feel pretty confident in what I want to create with my beads and arrangement. And so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of crimp off one side of this. So as I mentioned, you string on your crimp, make sure that both wires are exiting through, that they're staying separated or as best as they can. And then grab your crimp pliers or magical crimpers. You're going to just place it in the singular divot and press down. And you'll notice that your crimp has a flattened edge on each side of that square that I've just made. And that's a sign of that you're doing this correctly. So what I'm going to do is turn it on its side, and I'm going to just press again in that singular divot. And then I'm going to kind of just go around and around until it is, oops, even spinning my beadboard around. Okay, here we go. Until it starts to form into a little ball, as you'll see. So you can tug on it. You can make sure that it's not going to come apart or, uncrimp on you. But it should have a pretty strong hold. And what I'm going to do now is just cut off my tail. I almost cut all of my wire off, but I didn't. So just be careful when you're doing that. I kind of have to like pan my head around the camera just to see what I'm doing. All right, so now that I've got my clasp attached on the one side, I'm going to go ahead and attach a terminator to the end of my SilverSilk. This is really easy to do, and this is where your Zuron crimpers come in handy, because you can use that tapered end to stick into your finding and just separate it out a little bit. 1 to 2 millimeters is really about all you need to pry them apart, and or after prying it apart. And it'll just help you sort of press your capture chain in there pretty snugly as such. And then you're going to take your wide nose pliers and you're going to just crimp down. That's really about all you need to do. Just make sure that that seam is nice and closed on both sides. Give it a good tug to make sure it's not going to come out. And you are ready to go with your decorating. So I'm going to string through my knitted wire. I'm going to stay close to the Terminator though. Maybe just a bead. There's going to be a couple of beads of that ball chain right below it. And so you just find a space in that in between those beads, and then you can just string it right through. And then now you kind of just add beads however you want to. There's really no additional like major technique to learn other than, just making sure that we can string this efficiently through. Sometimes the holes of the pearls are so small that they don't want to string. Hi, Marianne. Watching and listening to Nile reading Joan with coffee and cognac. Life is good with Silver Silk. It's going to be a great week. Thank you, Marianne. It is indeed, and I always enjoy hearing from you. And Dav, your sister-in-law. So I'm glad you guys can join in our fun little workshop here, and that you guys grab the kit as well. So I'm sure you guys are going to make some beautiful designs this week. All right. So what you're going to do now is to create those little waves, you kind of just pick a spot on the knitted wire. I'm going maybe about 1.5 inches and finding that next space between the balls of or the beads of the ball chain. And I'm going to string through that space. You can mark it with your finger if you want to. You can certainly keep it low on the table and work that way. Just whatever's most comfortable for you and whatever's going to be the most efficient way to string this through without kinking the wire. But you'll find that the Silver Silk actually is quite soft and easy to work with. So that creates a single wave, and now you can continue to add some more beads. So you can take your beads and start to do like fun little patterns just with these smaller ones. So you can do, a shell bead or two. Just make it up as you go along. There is no right and wrong answer here. That looks really fun. So what I can do is create another wave, and this might be a shorter one. So let's do that. Okay, there we go. And we might want to maybe, I don't know, let's try and advance this a little bit and do a different type of wave. So maybe we want to create a little spiral on the next one. So what I'm going to do is sort of just place this on my table, and I'm going to kind of just loop this around as such. So what I want to do is visually figure out the spacing here and then add beads accordingly. So it looks like I can probably space in a little pearl right there, or string on a pearl right there. So that's what I'm going to do, all the while keeping kind of this sort of loop on my table, nice and flat. So here's a pearl. And what I'm going to do next is go back and string through the first part of my loop there. Gets a little confusing, but you'll see how whenever you start to lay it back down, it'll kind of come back to the position that it needs to. So all I did was string a pearl and then go through that first part of my loop. And then I'm going to string enough beads to kind of get myself across here. Okay, so let's see. I can maybe do some of these. I'll probably add my pink beads here. Oops. Okay. Let's do a pearl, a round one. Get some pops of color in there. Maybe we'll do another Keshi pearl. There we go. Make sure that everyone can see what I'm doing in my computer screen there. Okay, and I kind of want my loop to be a little fat, so I'm going to go ahead and space it out with a couple more beads here. Fun. Okay, that looks really good. So now what I want to do is keep my eye on where that space needs to be so that I can string my wire right through. Once you've marked it either with your finger or with, you could even use a straight pin and go right through it to keep it marked in place if you want to. I kind of have it just with my fingers right now. And then do your best to just sort of string through the knits of the wire until you get up to the other side there. Okay. And that's how you make this really round, fun little wave here. So yeah, now you can kind of just visually figure out where you want your next wave to be and then just continue. So it looks like I want to space this out with a few more beads. We'll do another pearl. I've got a lot of pearls on this particular project, so probably use a good bit of those. Hi, Sally. She says this project is fabulous. I would have never thought of doing this with Capture Chain, but it makes so much sense. It really highlights the chain and beads, doesn't it? Though it's such a fun and easy technique, especially when you do get comfortable with stringing through the chain. I would say that's probably the key for this project. Is just kind of getting your comfort and your, I don't know. Getting everything kind of placed in where you need it to be so that it's easy to string through, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. All right, so let's do, it's going to be a big O wave. Do another pearl. Hi, Jennifer. Oh my gosh, it's so lovely to see your name pop in, and I'm glad you could join in. Miss you. We'll catch up later during this week, in fact, and I'll, because I believe I owe you some text messages. This guy's designing. This guy's a designing genius. You're so sweet. You're a designing genius too. Especially, I'm hoping you'll get back into doing those lovely video tutorials for all of our fun and interesting products out there. Look at that big old wave. I mean, if you're gonna make a statement bracelet, this is your opportunity to go big or go home, right? Okay. Just stringing along. I don't have really a pattern or plan in mind. Just whatever kind of color-wise feels balanced. If I'm, putting pink here, I don't want it to be the only place that I introduce pink. I want to get out a little bit of distance there and then add in some pink over here to kind of help balance out all of my colors and textures. Really, this is probably a great practice in learning how to balance out materials and kind of be purposefully chaotic, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. Okay, looks like I can make a little wave there. Okay, so you just string that right through. Whoops. There we go. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to, as we're sort of continuing this and I'm getting these thoughts in my head, you can turn this into a necklace. And I believe I've taught it as a necklace before, way back when. If Stephanie Howard is here, she'll know what I'm talking about because she took the class for me back in Oakland. What you can do is kind of start to give this a nice little like curve as you're doing this. And instead of putting a clasp up here, you could just simply string on more silver silk. You could put on a different type of jewelry chain, and that way you have some sort of a chain or necklace rope that helps finish this up. And you've got a really decorative and a really statement necklace piece here, a little focal, if you will. Or you just lay it flat and becomes a bracelet. Or if you wanted to remove the clasp and put magnetic clasp on both ends, you can not only use it as a bracelet, but then you can use it as a focal piece if you've got necklace rope that has magnetic clasps on it as well. That way you just unattach and attach it on as you please. So there's a multitude of different ways that you can really take this to the next level and get the most functionality and fashion out of it. All right, so let's see. Got a little pearl. And I'm going to string on a few more beads here. It's important to have the smaller and larger contrast in projects like this, I think. I think it just creates a more interesting and more depth in the contrast. Yeah, Stephanie says, I'm here. That was my introduction to SilverSilk for sure. I remember that. And I remember meeting you, and you were just a sweetheart and wanting to learn all the different things about SilverSilk. And that was such a fun conversation in class that we had together. Let's see. You know what? I think I might do another wave as we're sort of maybe a smaller round piece here. That would be fun. Oh, Sally says, I am watching from work, but I've already have an idea for tonight. I have a Green Girls mermaid that is just waiting to ride a wave. Oh, I can't wait to see that. Please post it when you're done. I think that would be super fantastic as a combination for this design. That would be so great. Okay, I'm just going to do a little smaller wave here to give myself some extra interest in my design. And still continuing to string these along. Yeah, Green Girl Studio really creates a fantastic collection of just so imaginative and detail-oriented with their pendants and charms and all sorts of other bead components. I'm really always impressed with what Cynthia comes up with. So having her charms and components mixed in with the SilverSilk is kind of a huge compliment. Okay, here we go. String that right through. Again, these rounder loops might be a little bit more challenging, but it's just a great way to add an additional element. Almost starts to look like scribble, doesn't it? But in a very, I don't know, fun, organic way. Okay. I really can't wait to get out of my, I was telling Joan earlier, I'm wearing like the most comfortable like sweater on today. I call it my llama top. And but it is so hot because this sun is out today and it's just pouring in all of the beautiful sunshine and light, and it's really burning me up. Okay. would be a colder day. We're actually supposed to get warmer weather, so I'm happy about that. All right, so we'll do another pink. There we go. Ooh, that looks really good. So we'll go ahead and string that through. Okay, it's looking really good. At this point, you can kind of lift up and just check your wrist size that you prefer. This one looks like it's going to be a pretty good fit for me personally. I might do one more loop because what I want to do, I don't want these to face the same direction. So right now, as you can see, whenever I lay this flat, this side is sticking up and I kind of want it to turn on the other side. That's just a little bit of a design balance for you. And a little bit of attention to detail is that I feel like because they'd be facing the same direction, it would look a little bit awkward to me personally. So I want to have them face different directions. And so what I'm going to do is string on another Keshi bead like I did, or a pearl, as I did on that side. And I'm going to just kind of loop it back down to end my design here. Yeah, having them face the same direction, I feel like would look too intentional, and especially for an organic piece, we want to make sure that everything is a little bit different on both sides. Okay, that looks really good. So now I've got my design or my silver silk facing down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I could either choose to crimp it or I could choose to use a Terminator. There's no wrong answer to or wrong way to do this. You just choose whatever journey you want to go on. I happen to have picked up my crimp already, so we're just going to crimp it, everything in place, and then we'll go ahead and terminate our end. So I'm just going to string on a crimp, go through my second jump ring. You see why it's such like I'm so comfortable doing this with the extra beading wire that I have. Hi, Maria. So many possibilities with Silver Silk. Thank you. Lovely to see your name pop in too. I adore my customers and friends. We've become like a little Silver Silk family up to this point. So anytime your names pop in, it's always great. So I'm just gonna string that back around. You can unclasp this to make it easier if you want to, which is what I'm going to do. And just give it a good tug. You want to make sure that this is flexible, so don't worry about having it super tight. If there's a few little gaps here and there, it's okay because you want the beads to move around a little bit. Plus, you need that flexibility in your bracelet to be able to curve around your wrist anyway. So I just like to leave it a little loose. All right, and go ahead and pick up your magical crimpers. Crimp once to create that square. What does Sarah call it? A ravioli from Softflex Wire? It's always some sort of a food product when beading, and that's fun, right? So now you just go around and crimp it until it becomes a meatball. I hope I just invented a new thing. And see, now here's where I get real imaginative because now I'm thinking, oh, the Softflex Wire could be like the spaghetti, and then I just made the meatball from the ravioli, which none of that really makes sense, but hey, we're beating and having a good time, so it doesn't have to. Okay, I know that it's secure because I tugged on it and everything's holding up, including my jump ring and stuff. So now what we do is just trim off our silver silk here and terminate our end. So let me grab that Terminator. I want to make sure that I've went ahead and separated it enough for my silver silk to come through pretty easily, which I think that will. So the trick here is to leave 3 of the beads of the ball chain and then trim it. Okay, just 3 past where you've crimped it, and that should be good enough. Sometimes there's little things that stick out at the end, little pieces of wire. I call them wire fuzzies, as you all know. Go ahead and just pluck them off because they get in the way of crimping. You don't have to pluck all of them off or be super picky with it. Usually there's about 3 or 4 that, tend to stick around. Okay, go ahead and string on your Terminator. Grab your wide nose pliers. Make sure everything is in there nice and tight, and then just press down. Leanne, so good to see your name pop in. Oh, you were in the hospital. Well, I hope whatever's happening that you're recovering speed. If you're here and if you're joining us, that's a good sign. So I'm glad to hear that at least. But yeah, my heart goes out to you, and I hope everything's okay. So there we go. We have terminated our end there, nice and professionally. I've got just a really stellar bracelet that I've created within 30 minutes, and we've had some really good conversations. I just love this design. I know if you guys get your materials and stuff and start to work on it, that you will too. So I'm gonna flip back around to the finished photo, and then I'm gonna flip back around to my camera. And then I'm going to see if there was any major questions that stuck out. As we sort of, he says, I had meatballs and elbow pasta today. That sounds yummy. Giving me some ideas for my lunch as well, in fact. Let's see. And Joan, y'all give some snaps to Joan on the back end because she's doing an incredible job helping with answering some of these questions on the spot, as well as doing some background work. So Marianne says, there's so much movement in this bracelet. It's beautiful. Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate that. And then Leanne is saying, love your designs, Nile. Oh, thank you. Well, we've got an awesome one coming up later today. In fact, just here in an hour and a half, we'll be doing our next tutorial for the day, which are going to be a stellar pair of what I call sea salt earrings. These are earrings inspired by the shore, and just a really fun, easy, quick little project, but has a really design-forward construction method and look to them. So I'll be excited to teach that when we do come back. So I will leave you guys for the afternoon for here a little bit, and then we'll get back into our next project. But until then, I will get prepared for that, and I hope you guys have a fabulous lunch hour wherever you are, or just a morning or afternoon until our next tutorial. So I'll see you soon. Bye.